Yeah, hi and welcome back to another episode of Real Opinions. I'm not going to be doing much of the intro today because it sounds like Harrison, you've got the plan for the rest of today.
Also I thought, so it turns out Harrison's side of his recording was not recording for the first 20 minutes. But thankfully not everything was lost, because the first 20 minutes are just me talking about the whole YouTube scandal that's going on at the moment with advertisers dropping out, which it's made its way over to the US now. It's no longer just a UK-centric issue, so it's been covered a lot of places. You've probably already heard of it, but if not, just look it up. There's no point in me covering any more because, like I said, there's lots of bigger, better places have already talked about it. But if you can't tell by the title, we're going to be talking about Get Out. We do go into spoilers. I think we highlight it just before we go into that, and then after that we jump to all the news and everything and have a fun musical interlude. Great, and I'll cut back to where the recordings pick up again.
Right, yes. So, I initially saw it. I thought I had an idea of what I thought about it. And then over time, the more I've kind of considered it and the more I've remembered and looked back on certain things, my opinions changed quite a bit. When I watched it,
Positive or negative?
Positively. I would say that I enjoyed this more than any of the other big, critical, darling horror films, I liked it more than The Witch, or more than The Babadook, or more than It Follows. I still have issues with it, and I feel like this will be, the Jim Sterling Breath of the Wild situation, where I go, I liked it, I didn't love it, and therefore I'm terrible. I think that it's well crafted. I like the style. I like the horror aspects of it. My issues are mainly more towards the comedy side of the film. I'll probably get more into that. I like the sort of social satire stuff. I like some of the sort of, well, when I say black comedy, I mean the darker comedy. I like some of the darker comedy, but some of the jokes or the more obvious humor I found a little lowest common
The
denominator.
bit where it cuts to a stand-up set.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that loads of Americans have said that bit is hysterical, and I just found that bit those bits really lowest common denominator, really obvious, broad humour, and I didn't laugh once. So the comedy side of the film I'm less impressed with, but I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. And I've enjoyed sort of thinking back on it, perhaps more than I actually enjoyed watching it at the time.
Yeah, I definitely get what you mean, where you've enjoyed thinking about it more than watching it. I think, and especially, I definitely agree with your point that it's better than the other critical indie darlings that have come out before, especially the Babadook. The
Babadook. The thing with the Babadook was that because it was slow and boring, people assumed it was clever. This is clever and well made, because I think more so than any of those films, more so than The Witch, and more so than It Follows and those other films, I think this one was genuine, felt professional. It didn't feel like a directorial debut to me at all. I'm sure this is the part where your technical pedantry is going to come out and you're going to go,
No. I think the thing I wanted to go back to first was just that, like you said, the comedy aspect. I wasn't excited for this film because I thought the trailer looked a bit crap. And then the thing that got my attention was the fact when YMS called it a horror comedy. That was the thing that changed my mind, because I thought maybe some of the scenes that I'd seen that I thought were stupid were actually just for laughs. I think the problem that I had was it never really got into proper horror comedy for me until the second half, and before that it was just, this is a tense scene, this is a funny scene, this is a tense scene, this is a funny scene, and it swapped them out, and they were never really together.
Yeah, that's completely true, and that's why when I said that I liked the black comedy, that's what I meant, was when it was the sort of dark, when the horror and the comedy were merging. My favorite scene of the whole film was the first scene, where the guy's being stalked by the car, and it's where it's playing Run Rabbit on the radio.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. That was probably the part I found most amusing and kind of tense. And I thought that was a good example of the horror and the comedy kind of merging together. But like you said, for a good chunk of the film, it is comedy half and then serious half, which isn't necessarily an issue, but for me it was just that every time it went to the comedy half, I was like, can we go back to the good bit? Can we get away from
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very rarely that I watch like something like this and think, can we stop being funny? Can we get back to the serious bits now?
Well, for me, it was just that it wasn't funny. And I know lots of people have said that it is funny, but for me, I just didn't find any of those. It was just like, why is it funny? Because the black guy's yelling and saying bitch a lot. Why is that funny? Like, nothing he said was actually a joke. It was just he went, Jeffrey Dahmer! And then he would yell it, and then you'd go, ha ha ha. And everyone in the cinema would go, ah, ha ha ha, he yelled. And that's the kind of humour that I would expect from a Michael Bay film. And if it happened in the Michael Bay film, everyone would have said it was loud, obnoxious, and annoying. But because it happened in this film, everyone went, it's funny.
Yeah, I think people are excusing it just a bit, just because, one, of the overall quality of the film, two, because it's done by a guy that's typically done comedy before. And so it's sort of the excuse that you're going in with the knowledge that he's really good at comedy, therefore every joke's going to be much better. I was surprised that I went in being let down by the comedy, especially after all the Americans picked it up, and then actually finding myself drawn more to the suspense stuff.
Do you think it is an American thing? Because I've seen like Mark Kermode and a few other people say that they found that guy funny. So do you think it is maybe it's just us, or do you think it is like a transatlantic difference?
I don't know. I think Mark Commode's just got blinders on for certain topics, and when he likes a film, he just instantly changes his opinion on things that he normally wouldn't like. But no, I think it's partly a transatlantic thing, and then also partly just the fact that, I don't know, because like you said, people are saying it's their favourite bit of the film, and I just don't understand that.
Yes,
I think it's just that it's just not our style of comedy. I think it's just that, rather than, like, I don't mean our British style of comedy, I just mean our in general.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because a lot of his jokes are kind of dark and crass and whatnot,
that's true.
That's our thing. But for me, it was just that they weren't really jokes. It was just that he said something, but he said it in a loud, like, when I say hysterical, I mean just like over emotional way, and that was what was the joke. Not that he said something that was funny or well written, just that he said it in a air quotations funny way.
And I think that, like, sorry, it had a main film, and then it kept diverting to him the whole time.
Well, he's so separated from it, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
He's literally in another film. He literally could be in another film that they're just checking in on every now and then.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. And I know, obviously, he's set up for a reason that it eventually comes back to, which, even in his comedy scenes in the later half, it just felt like it suddenly got to a second film that you just had slotted in there.
Yeah.
I think if he had the same jokes, but somehow more involved in the horror aspect of it, like if it was just not completely separate from everything else going on in the film, then I think I would have. It just felt like it felt like someone doing a commentary on it, or he's like the how smart horrors now always have a character that's watched horror films and knows all the tropes, and they're just at the sideline saying, "Oh, don't split up, guys." It felt like he literally just called it in.
We'll move away from that, because that was one of my criticisms. We'll get to the other criticisms first, but because I actually liked the film, I would like to talk about some of the things that were positive.
No, I just want to rip it to shreds. I don't want to enjoy anything. That's not what film criticism is about.
Other than him, I thought the cast were all really good.
Yeah.
All of them, basically. I
thought the chemistry between the couple was genuinely believable at the beginning.
Yes, that was exactly the point I was going to make. I thought it was really believable. It was believable throughout, and even though I saw her, I suppose we're in spoiler territory. We've given the gist of what we thought, right?
Yes.
Spoiler territory. Obviously, when her betrayal comes, which I saw coming like a mile away.
Yes.
It's still, I don't know, it still affected me, not because I was surprised, but just because, like you said, their chemistry was so strong.
Yeah, I saw it coming, but at the same time I felt a bit betrayed.
Yeah. Like, I kind of wanted it to not happen. Like, it felt less like a twist and more like something that was just on the edge of my seat thinking, like, please just be a wacky misunderstanding. Yeah.
And sorry to go back to the comedy just for a tiny bit, but after she's been revealed, the thing that surprisingly one of the things that made me laugh the most is just when she sat on the bed watching something.
That was great.
With the cereal.
Yeah, that bit
I
was
don't know
great.
why that. It's just because maybe that's the bit that like the other people think, why was that in there? That's not funny, and we're just sat there laughing at that bit, like the really stupid bit.
That's just us. Yeah.
It just completely took me by surprise and just made me laugh quite a lot.
Yeah.
Just the idea of this completely psycho person just eating cereal while just browsing through Google for
Yeah.
guys.
That is funny.
Yeah.
And for me, I think she was the strongest character in the whole film, just because of that. Like it was almost Amy Dunn-esque. Like a really skillful manipulator. Like that bit where she's on the phone to the guy, and is like, "Oh, I know the way I've seen the way you look at me and everything," just to sort of get him to go away. She was a genuinely compelling character, and I thought she was a really good villain.
I thought if they gave the hypnotist kind of a bit more of a send off, I think I would have liked her more.
Yeah. Well, that's. I think you've brought me to my other major criticism, and it's the criticism that we made of Split, and it's the criticism that we made of 10 Cloverfield Lane, only to a much lesser extent. In the last 10 minutes of this, it starts to go into the sort of more schlocky stuff, and it kind of rushes it and does it very abruptly. Because I was like, yes, now here's the violent Django-esque sort of part of the film. The cathartic violence.
He comes back for vengeance or
it's
something.
Over. Yeah. It's already over, and it didn't feel like that should have been more excessive. I don't know. I think it should have been more excessive, more gratuitous.
I think that sort of comes down to budget in some ways. Like the stuff that they did, I didn't find disappointing. I think it was just that there should have been a bit more with it. I didn't like that when it got into the schlocky stuff. It didn't introduce it in any particularly fun way. I mean, they had the video, which I found a bit quite funny.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it was just a exposition dump where it's just like, here's this really wacky thing. We're not going to show it,
I've heard
but
of a
here's
lot
this
of
wacky
people
thing.
complain about that bit actually as an exposition dump. I thought I don't mind. It was a good exposition dump, so I don't mind.
They made it a lot more enjoyable than a lot of other crappier horror films, I'll give it that. And it was something that I didn't entirely see coming, which I enjoyed, whereas I'd seen a lot of other things beforehand. Like, I guessed that it was something to do with mentality or something just a bit darker than what you were expecting, but it was so crazy and out there that I didn't see that bit coming.
No, that was one of my, because like I think I saw 90% of the things in this film coming, but that was one of the few things that I didn't see coming, and it was just restrained enough. Like, it is ridiculous, but it's not completely ridiculous. Not saying the Split sense. Like, it is. It's sci-fi or fantasy-ish, but to a level that I felt worked. It was just ridiculous enough for me.
Did you say you preferred this to Split?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, I'd say the same. Yeah,
definitely, because Split was carried by one person. This had good characters all around. You have the girlfriend character was a compelling villain. The dad was a cool character. I liked the dad as a character. I actually liked Chris as a protagonist, and like the whole family, I thought were a good collection of villains. So
see, I didn't like the brother.
Oh, really? Okay.
I thought, well, I just felt like in a film where, sure, they're trying to be a bit silly at points, but it's just the fact that he just felt like everyone else had got the memo to act like a normal family, and they just forgot to send it to him, and he's just like, I'm so crazy. Like,
well,
he's just
I got because they were all like telling him off for it. I just felt like he got the memo and just actively ignored it.
No, that's sort of what they were going for. But I can't think of any situation where you would be at a dinner where someone's acting like that and you wouldn't leave straight away, or at least suspect like your girlfriend is somewhat mentally unstable. If she's just like, why is my brother acting like that?
You're not from Doncaster.
He's one of the nice guys.
I quite liked him. I think as well because because he was the one who was central to that opening bit, which I liked, which meant that he had a kind of sadistic sense of humor, which obviously I enjoy. I enjoy when
Yeah.
I get to laugh with the psychopaths.
See, the point that you said where I think that there are occasional moments where I think the directing could be better.
Go on.
But it wasn't like major things. It's just that, for one, I think that first sequence, while I enjoyed it, I think it could have given more. It could have had more weight to the rest of the film, in that it's kind of just. It doesn't really establish. So it establishes, yes, black people being taken, but that it's just kind of like there's a general threat, as opposed to if it had something that then linked it in later with the film, or at least like set up something with. So setting up the car, that feels like the car is going to come back into it at some point, and it doesn't really.
Not.
It sort of does, but not in a threatening way. It's just kind of like, here's the car now. Like, doesn't that explain it? It's not like it's actually like he's then running from the car, he's trying to escape the car, and you know that it's a threat, but he doesn't, or something like that. And then the point that I wanted to make is that I think that he used close-ups a bit too often to point out stuff that I think would be more rewarding if you just guessed it yourself. The main thing that just jumped to my head the moment I saw it was when they had the first scene of them, like it's the morning after they visited, and they're sitting down for tea, and the woman starts doing the teacup thing as she's asking him stuff. And in my head, I was thinking, so that's like some psychological thing where she's making like a Pavlovian response or something like that. And then it cut to like a 5-second clip of the teacup, like her deliberately doing the noise, and I was a bit like, that would be more rewarding if you then left that out.
I get you.
And it came back in the hypnotist scene, where it was people that had figured it out get that sense of reward, and people that hadn't are like, that's what she was doing.
Yeah.
Like it's a steady thing that sort of like Would You Kindly, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, I accept that as a point.
It wasn't like I was going to say like this stuff was crap or this stuff was crap. It was just stuff that I feel like, I think it's like I said with a lot of other films where it's the first time director for horror. I think it's really good sign of someone coming out of it and doing this good a project where you can only have such small notes, like as in bits where you think it could have been better, as opposed to the whole thing's crap.
Yeah. But yeah, generally I think it is very, very well made. There are definitely nitpicks I can make. Like, whilst I didn't think they were as gratuitous as I expected, there were some needless jump scares.
Yes,
they weren't. There wasn't that many. It wasn't the frequency. It was more that it felt like they were scenes that weren't filmed as jump scares and then were tried to be retroactively turned into them.
You mean the bit where like the woman walks behind him, and it's suddenly like
yeah, and it's like, let's put music there. Yeah, because that's it. It wasn't that there was so many jump scares. It's that every jump scare was music. Whilst I think that all of the stuff with the white people being sort of subtly racist or creepy worked great. The whole stuff with the servants felt a little, I don't know, a little like overly creepy.
Yeah.
To a point where it wasn't creepy to me. It was just like, look how creepy and unnatural they're being to too much of a level that it took away from me.
When I heard the horror comedy thing, the first moment I thought of was when the guy's running at him and then takes a 90-degree angle at the last second.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, so that's meant to be stupid. You're meant to laugh at that point. No, that's genuinely meant to be taken as something creepy.
The word I would use was I found it a bit cringy. The bits with them, a bit cringy. You know, people with false grins cocking their heads and talking in a weird rhythm. It's very, very like, look how creepy we're being. But on the flip side, I did like how all of the things they said started to make sense when you know that they're the grandparents.
Yeah.
That stuff was good. Like, you know, when he goes over to that guy and she's like, yes, she sure is a fine lady, and you know that he's old. That's why he's talking so weird. And B, it's his granddaughter. Or like the bit where Chris is talking to the maid, and he says like, "Don't worry, I'm not going to rat on you," and she's like, "What?
Yeah,
I'm not going to." And then he says some other slang, and she goes, "Oh, you're not going to taddle," and it's because she's an old lady who doesn't know the slang, and like that was they were the clever little rewarding things
Yeah.
that I've enjoyed thinking back on.
Yeah, no, and it was something that, like I said, it just added a bit more extra for when you realised that was the reason that they were going for.
I did like the gradual nature that certain things can be figured out. Like I knew what it was, but I didn't know the exact nature of it. But when there's the sort of bingo bit, and I knew that they were sort of somehow making bets or trying to bid for him, because you see the picture of him next to them while they're doing it. But to know that they were basically picking who gets his body was a cool...
Yeah.
It's a cool thing, and it doesn't set it up or have to forcibly tell you that. That's just something that you realise in retrospect.
Yeah. And I liked that they actually set up the reason for why someone would want to buy specifically him as well. And it didn't feel too forced. Like, the photographer scene didn't feel forced to me when I was watching it. I mean, maybe if I went back and thought about it, but at the time I didn't feel like this is deliberately being a setup for that reason, obviously. But I mean, it didn't feel like it was completely just for the purpose of setting up something else.
I understand, and I did like in that whole thing as well. That when you think back on it, like the whole thing with that one black guy kind of being taken aside just to sort of show off his body.
Yeah,
was because like they were like, oh, let's see your new car, like for lack of a better example. Yeah. It was like him just walking around showing off his new toy, and that was cool. And I did like how the camera thing was played into it later. You know, that the camera takes them, sort of brings it back. But I was taken out of it slightly because I forget the woman's name. You know, his girlfriend. But so he's lying on the floor and he takes a picture of the grandpa.
Yeah.
And then brings the guy back. She knows that Chris knows this because he's already spoken to her about this happening with the other guy. And B, surely she saw the flash.
Okay, yeah.
From the camera. But then he goes like, oh, I want the gun. Let me do it. And A, why would she think? Why would she not be suspicious of that? And B, if she's seen the camera flash, then she knows what's going on. And I don't know, I liked it as an idea. It's a cool, clever concept of the way to actually beat the villain. I like it. I do. I don't know, it feels like a minor plot hole. I don't know how she could be so stupid as to fall for it.
Yeah, no, I understand that one as well. It didn't take me out of it at the time, but thinking back on it, it does make more sense. And I did think at the time that the line of the "give me the gun," it kind of sets you up for, you know, you're being double crossed at that point when that's kind of like a trope of these kind of things. Yeah. But I mean, I could kind of forgive it.
The only other thing I particularly wanted to mention was something that I haven't mentioned for a non-musical in a long time. I liked the score quite a lot, apart from the forced jump scares. But that's not the composer's fault.
The thing is that, the forced jump scares, I remember I was sitting in thinking, I really like this score. Yeah. And then that jump scare happened with the lady going by, and I just kind of felt like, can I still say that I liked it if I really hated one moment?
Here's my reasoning for this. I consider that a sound effect. B, if I was listening to the score album, there wouldn't be a track that was just old lady walks by and then it just goes and that's it. So
that's my favorite.
Like that's not something the composer intended. That's something that someone told him to do. Yeah. So I can comfortably say that I really liked the score. It was different. It wasn't just like another Insidious wannabe score. It felt a lot like the Suspiria music to me, which is a great thing because Suspiria is great. But yeah, I really loved the score for this film. In particular, I'm talking about the opening credits when it's just shots of the wood and the title font. Good title font as well. I was so happy when I saw the title font. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be good." That's some great text.
I'm really glad you brought that up actually because I noticed straight from that the first thing I thought of, you're not going to like this, but the first thing I thought of was that's the exact same font color from The Shining.
Yeah.
And it's a very obvious, I think, allusion to that, like him going to sort of like an Outlook hotel and how that's all about. In some ways, many people interpret it about being the Native Americans, and now for this, it's
I agree with that. Yeah,
like it's sort of there's interesting comparisons with that, and it was one of those things that it was a reference, but it wasn't incredibly obvious unless you just happen to know that very specific thing. And then as a double for that, I really liked that they then used the exact same font and font color for the video later on in the instructional video. Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that you noticed, but not me. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was just it was a callback for, I don't know, it was just the fact that I really liked that they used the exact same font. That's just something I enjoyed.
No, I get that.
But there was another review by I think I might have mentioned this to you already, but he's one of the few people that comments on our channel, the reviewer.
Oh yeah. Now I know him.
And his review for Get Out was really good. I genuinely really enjoyed it, and I was worried about commenting on it because it's basically all the exact same points that I would make. So it looks like like when you read a review before you've made your own points, and it makes it feel like they're not your own points anymore. But the bit that I really liked, the comparison that he made that I didn't pick up on, was that I really liked how they did that sunken place, how they did that effect.
Yes, the Stranger Things realm.
Yeah, it was just genuinely interesting. It was well shot and it just felt.
Completely agree.
Yeah, and the thing that I really enjoyed about, I just enjoyed it as for what it was. But the thing that then got me to appreciate it a bit more that he said in this review is the comparison to how, when he had that incident when he was a child and he just went and watched the TV because he couldn't cope with how to deal with this situation, and about how by that sort of screen fading away, it's almost like the TV again. Like he's being unable to move or unable to do anything again, which is why it terrifies him so much, which I really enjoyed that. And I feel like it's one of those things that if I watch it again, it might be a bit more obvious, or I don't know, or maybe I'll just realise that it was bollocks. But I feel like it was something that I heard and I thought, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it makes more sense for why that backstory is in there, as opposed to just he has a bad backstory and he wants to make amends. He feels guilt. And I really like that.
I think he did a really good job with that. With the scene where he told that story.
Yeah, no,
that was the scene where
I liked him as an actor, but this one he really, really did well. He's been in a lot of British stuff, and he's always done a good job. Oh, and Sicario, of course.
Yeah, he was in Sicario. I was gonna say.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm really excited that he's sort of broken into becoming a lead now, because we just might get better acting in a lot of other films.
The only other thing that I particularly wanted to talk about, and this is the most obvious part really, was the sort of social satire of the film.
Oh, there's social satire?
Because when I saw the trailer...
that was so blunt.
When you see the trailer, like, the immediate thing I thought was, oh great, a film to tell me that racism's bad. Yeah. I didn't know. And it's not that at all. It's... I was so I would have been surprised. I think I'd read a few things that clued me into this, but I loved that it was actually about overtly sort of liberal, overtly progressive people.
I think the reason
highlighting
why it's
the hypocrisy in them.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's done so well is that I think it caters to both demographics. In that, obviously not racists, but I mean, like, as in, liberals can appreciate it because there is the talk about racism and how to represent it and all of that. But on the other side, it's also got some much more conservative views as well, which still align with not being a bad person still, but it's just a bit more conservative. And it, like I said, it talks about the liberal way of seeing things.
I think that's the genius of it. Is that it will the smug self-congratulatory liberals will watch this and sort of realise they're being taken down a peg, and then they will smugly go, yeah, we're like that, and it will fuel them even more, whilst at the same time taking the piss out of them, and I that's just genius, because it means that people like me get to enjoy it. I love that aspect of the film. And I do like the dialogue between Chris and the father character is really toe-curling and embarrassing.
Yeah.
And awkward in a good way. And I did like that stuff. And I genuinely did like the social satire, because it didn't feel as obvious and as heavy-handed as I expected.
Yeah, definitely. And
it felt like it was daring to do something slightly not controversial, but it wasn't just taking the very simple "all racism bad" angle. It was sort of daring to sort of make fun of people who, to make fun of the people that are well-meaning. Obviously, the people in this film aren't well-meaning, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's all about how, like you said, you can be well-meaning, but at the same time, like, sort of semi-offensive with it.
Yeah,
Just like,
black is back in fashion.
yeah,
Whatever that guy
yeah,
says.
exactly. Like you're going so far one way that you're actually alienating everyone.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I was expecting to go in, and just because it was just a horror film, basically. I felt it was going to be quite ham-fisted with a lot of that stuff, but if anything, that was the more nuanced side of it, which I wasn't
Yeah,
expecting.
yeah.
And I think he said somewhere, the director Jordan Peele said that he wants to do it. This is sort of like a trilogy of different, like a different stories about. I think it seemed basically like it was just about black culture and horror, which I quite liked. I'd be more than happy
Well,
to see two
I'm
more
excited
films.
for it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I would.
Yeah, if it was when the trailer came, if it was before I'd seen the film, I'd probably go, really? But it is definitely one of those films that proves your kind of pre-existing thoughts wrong, and I liked that. I liked that it wasn't exactly what I expected.
Yeah. So, just to wrap it up, I think I would go as high as an 8 out of 10. I really, really liked it. I had flaws. We've talked about those flaws. But just for the sheer filmmaking quality and for entertainment value more than anything, I really recommend it. I just wish they cut out that TSA character because he got on my fucking nerves.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that they need to cut him out completely because, like you said, there's a reason for him to show up at the end. But I think that if they just done it in a bit of a cleverer way than just having literally cutaways to this is a character, he exists, all this character, he's gonna come up later, and yeah, I think that was the biggest problem for me. I would go a bit harsher. Just I said 6 out of 10 at the time,
Because you're
but
Jack.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the exact same points as Harrison, but a little bit meaner. It's really great when you get, isn't it great when you have a conversation like a debate show where the people have the exact same views.
But somehow still disagree.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd say 7 out of 10. I said 6 out of 10 at the time, but like you said, I've been thinking about it since, which I don't typically do with a 6 out of 10 film. It's normally just because it's so average that I'm just like, it was average but better than most. But the fact that it's actually given me something to think about, I'd go back and watch it. Yeah, 7 out of 10.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Right, shall we move into some quick news stories?
Yeah, you've got all the news this time.
Have you got none, or is it just the ones that I'm with?
I have something I could very briefly talk about, but it's not big news.
Okay. Well, the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I mentioned this to you before we started recording, Zombieland 2, an update. So Paul, oh crap, what are the names? Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, I think are the names. They're the writers. They wrote the first Zombieland. They wrote Deadpool, and they wrote Life, which is obviously out now. It's it's in the press sort of stage.
That seemed to come out very quickly. Like I saw a bus advert and realised it was coming out next week, and thought, what?
But they wrote Life, and they're in press conferences and stuff now. And in one of them, they got asked about Zombieland 2, and they said that they haven't given up on it, and that they are like repeatedly badgering the studio in the same way that they did Deadpool. Like, please let us make it. But they've said that it is sort of gradually getting there, and that the main issue at the moment is that since the first Zombieland back in 2009, many of these actors have significantly raised their profile. Like Jesse Eisenberg back in 2009 hadn't had The Social Network yet. He had like indie cred, but he wasn't big. And Emma Stone has obviously skyrocketed since then.
Yeah.
Even Woody Harrelson, okay, he was established, but since then, True Detective and things, he has had like a resurgence.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's quite hard. I think the implication I got from it is mainly that Emma Stone's quite hard to get back.
Yeah.
Because she's the one that's doing well at the moment. But if they can get the actors together, and it did seem to sort of suggest that they wanted the original cast back. If they can get the cast back, it might go ahead. They've written it apparently, and I would really like that because I genuinely love the first Zombieland. The first time I saw it, I liked it, but it's been a film that I've come back to over and over again, and I find it like infinitely rewatchable. I think it's funny, I think it's entertaining, and I actually care about the characters, which is more than I can say for almost every zombie film or TV show. And it's so brief. It's only like Zombieland's like an hour and 10 minutes long.
Yeah, it is a very quick one, isn't it? Yeah.
But I care about the characters, and I feel like they're established way better than in 7 seasons of The Walking Dead. But I really like the first film, and they've talked about getting Paul Rubin back to direct, who made the first one. But that's less exciting, because when he made the first Zombieland, I was like, oh, this guy's great, I can't wait to see what he does next. And then what he did next was 30 Minutes or Less and Gangster Squad. So I think he needs Zombieland more than Zombieland needs him. But yeah, I hope it happens because I really like those characters and would want to see them again.
I have to agree with you. I mean, I enjoyed I wouldn't say that I necessarily love Zombieland, but when I think back to it, it's not a film that I've watched loads of times, but it has lots of memorable moments in it. And like you said, I can instantly... It's very rare, not only with just teen films and horror films, but just most where I can still imagine the characters years after I last watched it. Like I know exactly how each of them thinks, or just how they all interact with each other. And it was a nice dynamic between all of them, which I think is missing from a lot. It was a group dynamic in a film, which they kind of... Like, they force it on you with, like, Avengers stuff. Like, it's sometimes, but they don't really have... It's rare that you get a really good comedic ensemble in a film now.
I think it helps that there's only 4 of them.
Yeah.
And they are, like, the only 4 characters in the film, apart from Bill Murray and Amber Heard very, very briefly.
Well, I think that it wouldn't work unless that chemistry was so strong. So...
And as I've said, like, in 1,000 different... Like, I've said it on one of our radio shows, I think I said it in our La La Land thing, but Emma Stone just manages to have great chemistry with everybody that she acts with.
Yeah, I think she just seems like a friend, basically, to anyone.
Yeah.
And not just like she's paid to be there. Did you ever watch the TV show?
No, not at all.
I watched the pilot, I think.
That speaks volumes.
I started watching the pilot, and then I think I got to it, and then I realised that these were meant to be the same characters.
Are they?
But,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they are.
Oh,
yeah,
it's played by
the same, but it's played by different actors.
Now that makes me hate it.
Okay, no thanks then. I think it was one of these Amazon things where Amazon tried to do like where they put out the pilots and then they go, would you like to see this as a full thing? And I think I remember clicking no. I clicked no on a lot of things actually, and they all ended up getting made. So that Beta's TV show that you remember we watched for a we were in the same room as, and God, that's one of my least favorite TV shows.
Moving along to the next news story, I have 2 stories about the same film. And they are both about Beauty and the Beast, which has come along to be like the most successful thing ever. Have you seen its box office?
I haven't.
It's made 350 million globally in its opening weekend.
Jesus Christ.
It set 5 box office records, and I think I read that it was the most successful PG of all time. It's more successful than that Alice. It's more successful than that Alice in Wonderland remake, which, as you may or may not know, is in the top 10 most successful films of all time.
Yeah, that was a shame.
It's monstrously huge. Like, it's insane how much money this film has made already.
I honestly, I mean, I knew that it was going to be popular just from the
Mm,
amounts of people saying like, "Oh, I can't wait to see it." I
yeah.
didn't think it was going to be absolutely massive.
No,
I
neither
just
did
thought it was
I.
going to be. I was going to assume it was just going to be. They would say made more than Cinderella. Like
Yeah. But no,
I didn't
it's
know so many people were
humongous.
so attached to Beauty and the Beast
No,
because
neither did I, but they are.
it's never like I never hear it as people's
Mm.
favorite Disney film. It's
It
never people's favorite.
it's Naoma's second favorite, but that's only because Lilo and Stitch is her favorite film. So,
She has good taste then.
but it is so. And I was in the cinema when I watched it, and I was just surrounded by these like people who were. You could tell they were so attached. They were like blubbering and stuff. Like they really, really care.
See, maybe it's just because I never watched it as a kid, but
Mm.
I just don't get it. Uh,
I have to.
I just
I have
don't get happiness.
I have to say that whilst I don't get a lot of the sort of older Disney films, this is one of the ones that I did, and I
Mm,
really did enjoy. My review's up on the site, and you can see that I genuinely liked this film quite a lot. But the second news story, and I think it's related, even if Malaysia want to deny that, is
oh, I did hear that. Yeah.
is that Malaysia, obviously they were demanding cuts be made because in Malaysia, gay sex is still like an offence that can lead to prison time. And
Mm,
in case you haven't heard, there is a character in Beauty and the Beast that is very subtly implied might be gay. I don't think it's ever explicitly said at all or even indicated in a way like I don't know what they wanted cutting, to be perfectly honest with you. But
I was going to ask you. That's the only thing that I actually was
mm,
interested in. What they changed is how, of because I've talked to you before about how I didn't like that one line, that one throwaway line in How to
how
Train Your
should
Dragon
you?
2, where it was just like, here's a throwaway line that adults will get, ha ha ha. Like it
So
doesn't actually add to anything.
my best comparison would be that he is a bit of a Smithers character.
Right? Yeah.
He is never he never explicitly says that he's in love with Gaston. In fact, he actively tries to get Gaston a girlfriend on several occasions. But the way that that's the thing, is I think the way he talks about Gaston you could construe as genuine gay affection, but I could just as easily see it just sort of being a joke that haha he's talking about him like they're married because he keeps going like, oh, he just doesn't understand, or like I'm too good for him. But it could just as
Mm,
easily be inferred as he's too good to be his henchman, not
yeah.
romantically. So it's very understated, to be honest. But anyway, Malaysia demanding their cuts, and now just today, I think, they have decided that they don't want that anymore. They're willing to let it pass without any cuts. And I can't help but think that that might be to do with the fact that it's making a shit ton of money, and Malaysia were like,
Yeah.
we could do with that money. Because,
That's honest. That's honestly most likely it.
mm.
Yeah. They probably just pointed to like a sign that just says money, and they were, oh crap.
But in Russia, did you know in Russia it's a 16? It's a 16. But like something like Hardcore Henry, they can probably go and see at a younger age. It's mental. But that's the strangest part of this for me. Not taking like any kind of side on the debate. It's just that I don't even think it is explicit that he is gay. I don't really get the fuss. But the second news story, or what are we on now? Actually,
Oh,
it's the third.
I thought that was the second news story.
Third news story is the Power Rangers one that I wanted to update you on because I think it's in keeping with our theme.
I'm interested because I don't know what this is going to be.
So, the producers of Power Rangers have said that this film is the first part in a 6-movie saga for the Power Rangers extended universe.
What?
6-movie saga. These people have never heard the expression "putting the cart before the horse," have they? 6 movies. We're gonna order 6 Power Rangers movies because this thing is gonna be massive.
What? No. Why? What are they going to bring in? Like Time Force, SPD, Dino Warriors, whatever.
I have no idea what these things are, but
Mystic Force. I just remember seeing adverts for different Power Ranger series, and it seems like every year there was a brand new Power Ranger series coming out, and well, I heard terrible things about it.
I haven't heard that much. The only thing, because I don't care, the only thing that I've sort of noticed was it had a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes last time I checked. That
How rotten?
I think it was at like 50.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's bearable.
Yeah, it wasn't like, it wasn't, but that was last time I checked. That was last time I checked. But yeah, the producer was talking about how this is cross-generational, and the best part for me was that the director in the interview started talking exclusively about the CGI effects that they used. And then the producer just kept saying, but really it's about the characters. Just kept intercutting with, it's about the characters. And then when they talked about this whole 6-movie franchise, they kept saying, we've got strong enough characters to carry 6 movies, so I cannot wait to meet these people.
But the thing is that, did you watch Power Rangers as a kid?
No.
So, essentially, every single episode has the same plot. I have no idea how they're going to turn that into 6 films, because every episode is the same. They are just regular kids or teenagers or whatever. They come across something's going on in their local town. They investigate it. Oh, it's a cool new sandwich shop. Oh no, the sandwiches are doing something to the kids. Let's investigate it. Oh, it's the Mucklucks or whatever villains they're fighting this time. And it's some people in massive rubber costumes. And then they fight for a little bit, and then they realise, all the Mucklucks have gone into one giant Muckluck or whatever.
And then they turn to a giant
and then they jump,
and
and they jump in the giant Zord, and then they fight, and then they win. And that's it. And then the head Muckluck or whatever goes off in secret because he just escaped, and he goes talk to the big bad, and the big bad's like, "Oh, I'll get you next time, Power Rangers." That's every episode is that.
I just don't understand how you can make a film of this that is anything other than completely campy and ridiculous. I know they've not gone full Dark Knight with it, but the fact that they are taking it remotely seriously, to me, seems like a massive mistake.
Yeah. Have you seen the trailer at all?
I've seen a few.
It reminded me a lot of Chronicle.
Yeah, well, did you not see the Max Landis thing?
No.
Have you not? Well, I don't know if any of our listeners... I don't know if our listeners just know, because it's not like we mention it often, but we have opinions on Max Landis. And essentially, Max Landis tweeted this. Max Landis tweeted this because a single thought can't go through his head without him having to share it. Every single thought he has is so clever and brilliant. He needs people to hear it. And basically, when the trailer came out, he went, "By the way, they hired me to write a draft of this, and then fired me because it was too campy and silly. And then they just wrote Chronicle anyway."
Right. That girl did want to go out with me, but then she found out I was too cool, so she went out with the other guy. But I don't care. He's basically just like me.
Victor Frankenstein will be a hit.
When? I didn't mean it seemed like Chronicle in a bad way. It just, that's obviously his best film by far. Far and away his best film. I thought it was interesting that it was basically these teenagers go into a cave and then find out they're Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And then even little robot sidekicks the same, and they take it seriously. I'm with you. I don't know how they can keep a straight face through it all.
No. But the other sort of big extended universe mega franchise that's now being built up is obviously.
Is there more?
Well, I was gonna talk about the legendary monsters universe, King Kong Godzilla thing.
That is the one that of all the series to say we want to do a universe, that's the one that I'm fully accept the most.
Thank you, because people like Chris Stuckman and Jeremy Johns, who obviously are the most profound critics of our time, have like opened all of their reviews with like, oh yeah, everything has to be a universe now, so I guess King Kong's gonna fight Godzilla. Number one, they fucking they eat this crap up. It's because of people like him that everything is a universe now.
Yeah.
Because they just blindly praise all this stuff. Number two, of all of the ones to do a crossover with, Godzilla and King Kong makes sense. And the films feel similar when you've seen them. They have similar sort of plot points, and they've quite cleverly, I think, managed to sort of interconnect the worlds already, if you see Skull Island. Like, it feels like they're doing it gradually. They've not just jumped head first like DC did. Like, they're building up to it. Number three, there's a precedent for this, because King Kong and Godzilla have been in films together since the 1960s.
That's the thing that just made me accept it. I think I watched the Stuckman King Kong review, and it goes on about how I used to watch the films as a kid. Aren't there like every single crossover film imaginable has already been done, like King Kong versus Mothra or something like that?
Yeah,
that's probably already a film.
Yeah, King Kong versus Godzilla is a 60s film.
It's just they basically invented the universe thing because they all interconnect anyway. It's not like they have.
Do you know who else invented this? The Universal monsters, because Frankenstein and Wolfman were crossing over way back in the 30s. But again, everyone's like, "Oh, look at them jumping in on the whole Marvel thing." Like, Marvel don't own cinematic universes. They didn't have a patent on it. They existed before. AVP happened back in the 2000s.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's Alien versus Predator, by the way.
Yeah. No, it took me a second to figure it out. I think the problem that people have is that they just assume everyone's going to follow the Marvel route, which is that the Marvel route was it was different from the Universal Monsters and all of that, just because it was set up individual characters and then we'll bring them all together for one big bash, and then like it's a staged universe, as in they have a plan where they're going to go next. The Universal Monsters, it was, what money do we have and what can we film on this set?
Yeah,
like it was just
it wasn't a plan. It wasn't part of an overarching plan. No,
let's make whatever we can make next. It wasn't like there was a full structure to it. And while that kind of makes it sound like I'm going against the build it up slowly thing that they're doing for Godzilla and Kong, they're not building up to a monster Avengers or something like that. At least that's not the impression that I've been given. It's just build up to monsters fighting.
Two monsters fighting.
Yeah.
But they're all willing to give Justice League a chance, even though DC have proven that they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It just feels like they have their favourites. Like, because Star Wars is doing it with its spin-off movies, but because they all love Star Wars and cannot criticise Star Wars, it's fine. And because Marvel can do no wrong, it's fine. Because they all, once upon a time, loved Aquaman when they were kids, it's fine for DC to do it. But because I guess there's less attachment to this monster universe, this is their chance to legitimize themselves as serious critics and prove they're not fanboys.
I may sound like an idiot for this, but it's not connected to Pacific Rim, is it at all?
There was Guillermo del Toro kept talking about wanting to make it connected, but I don't think anyone else wanted it to.
I remember the term kaiju universe being thrown around because essentially you could just call Godzilla a kaiju.
That would be the point that I would start to get annoyed with it, because Pacific Rim was never intended to cross over.
Yeah, it's its own thing. Yeah,
and I don't really see their worlds being compatible. Like, I don't think that Pacific Rim fits the tone of Godzilla and Skull Island.
I was just asking. I didn't know if it was actually or not.
But it's, to me, it reeks of these YouTube critics and it reeks of these fanboys picking one that they can criticize to prove that they don't just blindly love all this stuff. Because so far, Godzilla was good. Skull Island was good. That is a better track record than DC had, and to be honest, in my opinion, it's a better track record than Marvel had when they were 2 films in.
Yeah, I'd say it's. I didn't care much for Godzilla, I have to admit.
Mm.
More for the beginning and the human people, as opposed to
Mm.
the actual fighting itself. But
Mm.
and I haven't seen Skull Island, so I can't comment on that. But like I
Mm.
said, it's the universe that I have the least like qualm with it being a universe, because like I said, it's already done. They've already done it.
Mm.
It's just the fact that, and also I think the problem is that they're like, oh, I hate that we have to bring out all these old tired franchises again just to cart them out again. But
Mm.
the thing is that when you think about it, with Marvel, sure you hadn't actually had an Iron Man film before or Captain America,
Mm.
but they're the big numbers. And then once you get down 6 films in or so,
Mm.
you're getting Ant-Man, which,
Mm. Yeah,
well, I'm
there's
not
a
excited.
reason.
Or you're getting Doctor Strange. You're
Yeah,
getting the ones that you didn't think, like when you were a kid, you wouldn't think they're gonna make a film of that someday.
no, that's
Like,
it's. Why do we have to take out Godzilla and King Kong again? Because they're more promising than the scraping the bottom of the barrel.
yeah, exactly. No one starts. No one is gonna say, "Hey, we want to make a monster universe, so we're gonna start with like Mothra's baby or whatever." Mothra's literally the only one I know, so that's why I'm quoting that.
I know, I understand, but yeah,
The-
and also, are they that tired? Are King Kong Godzilla that tired?
I would say Godzilla. You could argue it just because it seems like there's a new remake every so often. Not
But not in
necessarily an
America.
American remake, a
Yeah,
Japanese one of some kind. King Kong. This is literally the third remake, isn't it, or is it the fourth or
the
something?
four. Well, you got your
I
thirties
imagine there
King
was probably
Kong.
one that no one watched in the
So,
50s.
so you got 1933 King Kong. That has a sequel, Son of Kong. Then
Does it? I
yeah,
didn't actually know
yeah.
that.
Then in 1960, I think Japan do King Kong Lives and a few like Japanese ones.
Right.
But the next proper American King Kong is in the 1970s. Then there's a sequel to that, and then the next one is Peter Jackson's, and then Skull Island. So there's
So there's actually way fewer than I would have imagined for
yeah,
for such an iconic cinema like,
yeah.
well, beast, essentially monster. Like, he's got less films than probably Frankenstein or
Yeah,
Dracula.
and Skull Island isn't a remake. It is a completely different story that just
Mm.
takes like a completely different. The only part of that's the same is that there's a giant monkey on an island.
There's nothing that makes me go, ugh, another Kong film.
Mm.
Or, ugh, another Godzilla film. It's I get bored of the human characters, and it's the
Mm.
dull bits. I'm just like, yeah, you can make, why don't you just make them fun?
Yeah,
Like,
well that
sure, they kind of took them seriously in the old stuff, but because it's older, you kind of get the campiness of it. It feels campy
yeah.
to you anyway, regardless of how seriously they took it.
No, I'm not
Anyway.
saying that either of those two films have been perfect, but
Oh yeah, of course.
the fact that they're leading up to King Kong versus Godzilla is not the cause of any problem. Like it's very unintrusive in Skull Island, the setup for Godzilla. Like basically, there's the fact that Monarch, which is the company that Ken Watanabe works for in Godzilla, that's the sort of monster hunting agency that John Goodman works for in this. So they're kind of like the Shield, but that's
Right.
it. Then there's the sort of illusion that the skull crawler monsters on the island come from underground, and that's where all these prehistoric creatures are coming from, which is obviously
Hmm.
how it was in Godzilla. So those two plot points that are kind of lightly addressed, and then there's a post-credit sequence. And to be honest, it was the most exciting post-credit sequence I've seen in a long time.
The thing is that, yeah, like, I never watched them as a kid,
Mm,
but I still find something just charming about the idea that I just know that there were 20 odd something films where it's just a monster attacking another monster.
mm,
The problem being is that now, because everything has to be like a high budget thing, they're not just cranking them out with a guy in a costume.
mm,
Like, they're massive hundreds of $1 million affair.
mm,
So they have to be hits, every single one of them, as opposed to we'll throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
mm.
That's the one thing that I'm like a bit disappointed by. But that's just the times.
Yeah,
That's not a problem with the filmmaking itself.
yeah. I could go on and on about the Godzilla monsters in the same way that you could go on and on about your Power Rangers. And
I did not go on that long about Power Rangers. I know the titles of four of the 20 series that they've done. I'm not like some Power Rangers expert here.
But listen, Rodan is a giant pterodactyl, and King Ghidorah is a dragon with 3 heads. I just hope that one day they introduce Gigan, because Gigan is like this giant. He looks a bit like a grasshopper in terms of his face, but he's got a beak and like dinosaur legs, and then he's got sickles for arms, and a giant circular saw in his chest, and he would like grab Godzilla and pull him into it. Yes, he's great. Or we could have Jaguar.
Is it just a giant jaguar?
No, he's a human. Like, he looks like a Power Ranger, but he can shrink to Ant-Man size, and he can grow to Godzilla size.
Right.
And he fights them, and he has a theme song, this like Japanese theme song that goes like Jaguar, Jaguar. It's great.
He's my favourite. He's already my favourite. I just want to see a giant guy in a giant guy in a spandex suit fighting Godzilla. I'm gonna listen to this theme song.
It's
now.
amazing.
What's the name of like the series of films? Because if I type in Jaguar theme song, it's just gonna come up with like a shitty car advert.
Jet Jaguar.
Oh, he's got a first name. Okay.
Yeah, Jet Jaguar. Theme song.
So his pictures just come up. I'm looking forward to that. Apparently the song is Punch 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 by Jet Jaguar.
人が作ったロボットだけどジェッジャガージェッジャガーやったぜジャガー行け行け平和を守るためみんなも驚く勇気を見せるゴジラとジャガーでパンチパンチパンチ泣くな僕らも頑張ろう
Do you have any other news stories at all?
A very quick one. Remember last podcast I mentioned that Corin Hardy is directing the Conjuring spin-off The Nun?
Right.
So at that point, it felt like that was just one of the things that comes out of the rumour mill every 5 minutes. But
I thought that was confirmed.
Today he tweeted from the set of The Nun. So his career's dead already. He's dead to me now. He's dead.
Mourning. State of mourning.
Yeah. But that's it. That's it. That's all.
Well, I'm sorry. I know he meant a lot to you.
Well, I just thought that we shared something when I went to his friends and family screening of his film.
One news story I thought you might bring up is that Disney is being sued regarding Zootopia because apparently the screenwriter that did Total Recall, Gary L. Goldman, apparently pitched Zootopia, like the exact idea to them twice. Once in 2000, once in 2009, and now he is suing them because he's basically saying that they stole his idea. I'll read you just the quote from this article on The Hollywood Reporter. Yeah, sorry, he pitched an animated film called Zootopia twice. Yeah, he provided a treatment, synopsis, character descriptions, character illustrations, and other materials. And they copied Goldman's themes, setting, plot, characters, and dialogue, quote, sometimes virtually verbatim.
Really?
Apparently. This is from his lawyer's initial statements. So it's from his side saying, they stole it virtually verbatim. So you don't know how truthful it is unless something comes from it. You can't really lie about the fact that you did pitch something twice with the title Zootopia.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, if he was lying, it would be a very short court case, so I have to believe that there is some truth to it.
It is that they're starting a lawsuit. It's not, you don't know at what stage it's in, but it's the fact that, Disney made over $1 billion on it. So if you could say, you stole my idea and made $1 billion off it, you could probably see how he would get quite a bit of money.
I think it might be interesting from a podcast perspective to cover this as a story regularly.
You mean like a serial thing? Like every episode, it's really in-depth journalism.
I'll just have to be bothered to do journalism.
Yeah, that sounds way too much like hard work. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can do it on YouTube. We post every episode, or you can do it on iTunes as well.
Sorry, that sounded so passive aggressive. Like you were like, you can see the podcast here and here, and I just went,
Oh, you sounded passive aggressive. I thought you were saying I was passive aggressive. Okay,
no.
Okay, that's not too bad now then. If you want to hear any of our reviews where we don't spoil everything, where we just talk in general, you can, again, on the YouTube channel, I'd say once a week at least, post something or other. Great. Thank you very much for listening, and hopefully see you next time.
Goodbye.
Oh, I was genuinely I was looking forward to how you were going to say goodbye this week, and that was a bit sad, really.
Okay, I can do it again.
It was a bit like, what's the film where they bring out the Yeti out into the forest, and they have to like throw stones at it to get it to go away.
What?
Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Oh, okay. Right. It just sounded like a sad monster being sent home.
I was imitating. Well, this is gonna make me sound weird now. I have to explain it. But I was imitating.
Explaining jokes makes it funnier.
I was imitating the phone call that the police department received all after the third Zodiac killing.
That's so specific.
That's how he says goodbye.
Of course you were referencing the third phone call from the serial killer. Of course. How could I not get that famous quote of goodbye on a telephone call?
But that's how he says it. Well, now you've got a little bit more insight into my head.
Now I'm using it. Now we've got context for your goodbye. I'm sticking with it.